The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has written to the EU stating that its current plans for the Irish border must be scrapped because it is unviable and anti-democratic. In a letter to European Council President Donald Tusk, Boris Johnson says the backstop, which aims to avoid a hard border between Ireland and Northern Ireland, risks undermining the Northern Irish peace process. Well, in the past hour, the EU's Donald Tusk responded, saying those who are against the backstop are not proposing realistic alternatives. Let's go live to Adam Fleming, who joins us from Brussels. So no deal as far as the EU is concerned, Adam.
Certainly not today. And the rest of that tweet by Donald Tusk that you just quoted was even harsher. In it, he suggested that people who talked about abolishing the backstop without talking about viable alternatives actually didn't really mean what they said, and actually were almost willing the return of a hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. Donald Tusk didn't mention Boris Johnson by name, but I think that was a tweet squarely aimed at him and people who are of the same frame of mind. We also had a briefing from the European Commission. They're the people that run the Brexit talks on a day-to-day basis. They said that they welcomed the engagement of the UK government, but they gave a thumbs down to lots of things that were in the letter. They said that the backstop was so far the only way that anyone had come up with to ensure that there'd be no border checks between Northern Ireland and Ireland. They said that these alternative arrangements that the UK government is pinning their hopes on haven't been proposed yet, and no one can find evidence that they could exist in the future, and that even the UK government itself admitted that you may need to have a backup plan to the backup plan in future if those alternatives to the backstop couldn't ever be found. Then there was a document circulated amongst the civil servants and diplomats and politicians from the 27 national governments in the rest of the EU, which rebutted some of the claims that Boris Johnson made in his letter. For example, things like the withdrawal agreement, the Brexit treaty as it currently stands, is in contradiction to the Good Friday Peace Agreement, rebutting the idea that the people of Northern Ireland would have no say over what was happening to them if the backstop came into place, and also rejecting this idea that Northern Ireland and Ireland already exist as separate kind of legal entities. The EU says that only happens because of the framework of EU law, and that is why you need something like the backstop to preserve all of that.
Okay, Adam, with the reaction in Brussels, thank you. Let's get more with our Global Affairs correspondent, Naomi Grimley. Just explain exactly why he wants to do this.
Well, he doesn't like the backstop and the Brexiteers don't like it because it keeps Britain in the orbit of the EU for longer than they would like. And so they see it almost as a sort of surreptitious way of trying to keep Britain locked in the customs union with the EU.
And
indefinitely, and this isn't something that Britain itself could pull out of. It has to be agreed by both sides that they should leave. So that's why it's so controversial. He's doubling down on this as part of what we've seen, his hardball game with the EU. I think the question is, why is he doing it? Is he doing it because he believes the EU may eventually budge his way and then they can get a deal in October before that crucial deadline? Or is he doing it because he thinks in the end he can blame the EU if Britain does abruptly leave the Union and the consequences of no deal are seen?
And time is running out. I mean, he's going to Angela Merkel, I think, in Berlin tomorrow, then President Macron in France on Thursday. Then we've got the G7 as well. I mean, there isn't a lot of time left, is there?
No, there isn't a lot of time. He says in his letter it's his highest priority to leave with a deal and that he's got energy and determination to do that. Just a few weeks ago when he came in as Prime Minister, he said that he wasn't going to travel to EU capitals. If they wanted to talk to him, they could come and visit him in London. Well, already we've seen a reversal on that because, as you mentioned, over the next couple of days, we'll see him in Berlin and France. And then, of course, the big G7 debate. There'll be a lot of Brexit talk in the sidelines of that over the weekend.
OK, Naomi, thank you very much indeed, Naomi Grimley.